Welcome, 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 my friends. It's Wednesday morning. It's May. We're nearing the end of the school year, and teachers, congratulations. Parents, congratulations. Students, congratulations. We've almost made it through one of the craziest times that any of us have ever lived through. I am here today, ladies and gentlemen, with a doctor. Deonne Johnson is indeed a PhD, and she's going to tell you all about that in a minute. But it's not all that often that we get a doctor in the house, so we have to make her feel a little bit special and maybe a little bit awkward. But in all seriousness, Deonne has been with Instructure since 2013. She knows a bit about Canvas, you could say, at this point, and we are so excited to have her talk us through today some of the best practices for Canvas courses. So with that, Deonne, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself. Hildy, I see that you're here. Welcome. Hildy's one of our good friends from Virginia. Everybody else, remember to put your name and where you're from in the comments so we can give you a shout out. There are going to be a lot of great times for questions and to really ream Deonne during the next 30 minutes. So bring on all the hard ones. The doctor's in the house and she's ready for them. Deonne, with that, it's all yours.
Mark, I should not have let the cat out of the bag. That's not usually something I lead with, that I have a doctorate, but I do in instructional technology. And I'm grateful today to be able to share with you my educational background, my passion for educational technology, and also for Canvas. I absolutely love working for Instructure, and I love sharing best practices. And what is the best return on investment for your time? That's where I wanted to focus today's session on. So Mark, if you'll go ahead, perfect, and share my screen. I have a couple of resources here that I wanted to share out with you. So welcome to Best Practices Canvas Course Design. I wanted to share with you the top 5 things. If you're going to make your Canvas course better, what are some of the ways that you can do that? And one of the easiest ways is for you to leverage the power of templates. So I don't know if your institution is utilizing templates, but if not, I highly recommend that you even just go to Commons yourself as a teacher and search in the Commons area for anything with templates, and you might be able to find something that you can use straight from Commons. Our most popular item that we probably sell in our Department of Instructional Technology is the ready-made template suite. And I have a link there. And Mark, there's probably a way that you can share out this presentation after the fact, right? Perfect. So we'll make sure that you get the link because I have some great resources in here. But in that ready-made template suite, this is something anybody can go to and they can look at it, and you might get some really good ideas. So for instance, if you're a higher ed client, you might click on that link, and then maybe you're going to look at that higher ed template. Doesn't really matter what one. And you can see some of the best practices that are being applied specifically to this template. So it's nice for your students to see at a glance, what is the course of your title? Maybe you want to have a banner that's reflective of the course content. And then just so that it's visually appealing, I always recommend to have some buttons or some sort of graphic component at the bottom. I love having a link to the learning modules itself because then you never have to change that link. I've seen some effective use of having buttons that are reflective of each of the modules, and that's fine if you've got 3 or 4, maybe 5 different modules. But if you're doing a semester's worth of content, that's going to be a lot of buttons. I've seen one client that wanted to have 18 buttons recently, and that's just going to be a little bit too much for most of your users. I like to say there's that 7 ± 2. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that concept, but 7 buttons would be probably the max that I would do. 5 is probably ideal. The other thing I love about this suite is then you can look inside and you can get a sense of, you know, it might be helpful if there's a Canvas overview and resources where we can provide information for our students on how to get started, helpful tips, additional support. It's nice to have a welcome module. And then it's nice to have that consistent module structure. This one is utilizing the 5E module. So how are we going to engage students with content? How are they going to explore, expand the learning? How are they going to evaluate? And what are their extend opportunities? The other thing I love about this is that consistent naming structure. So we can see that there's an overview for the students to see, hey, this is what this specific module is about. And there's also some sort of conclusion, a wrap up and looking ahead. The other thing I love about this content in here, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I told you I was going to interject and I just did it. It's so rude of me. Thanks everybody for joining. Juanita, I see you here. Mary, Ronaldo, I know you're wanting to know when we're going to kick these off in Spanish. We need to get on that. It's time. Deonne, will you do me a favor while I'm jibber jabbering up here and grab that link to your template? And so we've got already a question in there about wanting these templates. So if you throw them in that private chat button on the right side of your screen, or just Slack them to me, whichever, I will be able to send this out to everybody that's joining us. Gloria from North Carolina, thank you for joining us today. Right now, everybody, we are talking about best practices for Canvas courses with Dr. Deonne Johnson. Yes, she has a PhD. Yes, she doesn't really like to talk about it. And yes, I'm the one that's going to keep pushing. So with that, Deonne just shared the link. I'm going to share it with all of you shortly in the comments. Any questions you have, ask the doctor while she's in the house. Deonne, back to you.
Thanks, Mark. The other thing I love about all of these templates is there's a visual component. So if we look down at maybe this overview and to-do list, we can see that there's some icons associated with each of those headings. There's also some best practices that are being applied here in terms of accessibility. So we're using styles within the module so that if somebody's using a screen reader, that they're going to be able to have that to support them with a screen reader. So hands down, using a template is going to be one of the easiest things that you can do that will give you a really great return on your investment. And I will share out this link to the presentation towards the end of our time today. So besides the power of templates, something else that I think is probably one of the most underutilized resources in a Canvas course is that link validator. So I have a course that I put together, and if you go on any of your courses, then look at settings, you can validate the links in that content. What that's going to do is to ensure that your resources, your students are able to get to those resources. So it'll take a few minutes here, and I pulled down content from Commons when I put this course together. And you can see that that link validator has not been run yet in this course. So we're all going to be surprised and find out whether the content in this course is actually going to be accessible to your students. So I'll let that run here in a minute. And meanwhile, I'm going to talk about the next bullet point, the low stakes assignments. One of the best things that I can do, or that you can do, is you kick off your course with your students, is to give them easy opportunities to become more familiar with how Canvas works. So for instance, as an instructor, I like to have a welcome module and introduce myself using a video. I think that people in my generation are typically more adverse to creating recordings of themselves or being on camera. But by doing that, you're going to really bring an element of your personality and that you're a real instructor, really caring and helping your students. So I would recommend to create some low stakes assignments, such as an introductory discussion where people can leverage that video and introduce themselves and you introduce yourself. Another way that you can do that is to have a low stakes quiz at the beginning of your course and a low stake assignment, just to help your students become more familiar with how Canvas works. The other thing that I highly recommend, still got our link validator going on there in the background, is to utilize rubrics. If you haven't utilized rubrics, maybe in the chat there in the live comments, people can give shout outs for rubrics. I love the transparency that comes with utilizing rubrics. Students know what's expected of them, and they, oh, look at that. We do have some unpublished content that is referenced in the resource and some external links that were unreachable. So that gives me that opportunity to look at those 15 broken links and see if those are actually broken or if I just need to publish that content and that'll take care of those errors. So for sure, in that link validator, make sure that you check out those messages.
Deonne, I'm jumping in again on you.
Yeah,
So
great.
you talked about unpublished courses. How often are you seeing from educators? Everybody who's listening, I think you've probably heard us talk about it enough. This is one of, if not the very biggest issue that we get in support, where students can't see something that a teacher supposedly put up. Make sure you publish your courses. Make sure you publish your courses. Janaya, I love grading with rubrics. Love it. Allison loves them as well. Infinity, rubrics eliminates lots of headaches. And Wilson, you're working on a Canvas rubric professional development course right now. Nice, nice, and nice. Rubrics are the best. I will never go back to paper rubrics. Tanya, we like you. Thanks for joining us. Deonne, I'm going back.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, rubrics are the best. And I'll share with you some of the strategies that I use to make those even more efficient. Hopefully everybody knows on an assignment itself that you can just add that rubric. With discussions, I love to leverage the same discussion and say, here's the 4, 5, whatever different items I'm looking for in a discussion response, but keep it general enough so that you can put something like reply to the discussion prompt. That way, the only thing that's changing in your discussion rubric, or sorry, the only thing that's changing is your prompt in the discussion. But students have that similar clear expectation that every time that they're in a discussion, that they need to be doing those 3, 4, or 5 different things that you've attached to a rubric. The other reason I think that that's important is we probably all know that discussion rubrics are a little more hidden, that in the course itself, let's just pull one of these up. Oh, I have no discussions in here. If I was to create a discussion, and we'll just do a quick little demo and hit save. This is where you can add, I've got to make it a graded. Let's see, let's make this one graded worth 10 points. So to add a rubric to a discussion, a little more hidden, we have to go up here to those little dots, the side ellipse, or I've heard it called a skinny snowman, and you can add a rubric as long as it's a graded assignment or a graded discussion. Because it's a little more cumbersome to add a rubric, maybe that's not the best word, but I feel like it's so visible when we're doing assignments that with discussions, I like to leverage that same rubric with multiple discussions. The last bullet point on the top 5 things, I think, for your best return on investment for Canvas, best practices for Canvas course design, is to utilize the accessibility checker. So again, we're just going to jump into a page here. And once you click on edit, there's this great little skinny guy. Where did he go? I think I need to make that smaller. And if you have the new rich content editor, it might be in a little bit of a different place. But that little gentleman in the circle there will allow you to check your accessibility. And then you can ensure that you have appropriate alt tags added, or maybe they need to be decorative images. So to make those kind of changes, you would just click on your icon and you can come up here to your embed and you can say, that's actually a decorative image. I don't need a screen reader to say that that's an airplane. And then you can update and make those changes.
Hey, Deonne.
Yes.
Question here from Laura, who was asking, she mentions that she loves rubrics. So do we, Laura. So do we. Is there a better way to share good ones with others or to add a rubric to many assignments at once?
So one way that you can have a solid rubric that's shared out across multiple people is to have that rubric added at the sub-account or the root level, but you need to have administrative rights to do that, meaning somebody that has the admin shield. So I would certainly, Laura, share that up with your Canvas LMS administrator and see if they're willing to do that. They can be added by sub-account, so that kind of depends upon how your institution is set up. If you have here's all of the high schools, or here's my specific high school, or it might even be by department. You could potentially have everybody that's at the English department is going to have access to that rubric. And as far as a better way to add a rubric to many assignments at once, I would just create that one solid rubric, and then in the assignment itself, when you search for your rubrics, it's going to see all that you're attached to, and you can pull those in one at a time. But if you want to like attach to 10 assignments, that's still going to have to be done one at a time. Unless I'm overlooking something, feel free. There's no way I can know as much as everybody that's here in the live session. So if somebody has a better answer, feel free, but that's how I would do it.
Awesome. Reminder, everybody, we are here with Dr. Deonne. She's going to hate me for years that I keep calling her that, but I'm going to keep doing it. I'll have to send her some donuts and flowers or something as a sorry. We are talking about the best practices for Canvas courses. We've got a large group that's here with us. Make sure you drop any of those questions that you have. First off, drop your name and what school or institution you're from so that we know who's with us. And any questions that you have for Deonne, please drop them in. We'd love to help you answer them over the next 20 minutes.
Thanks, Mark. The other thing that I love that the accessibility checker will do is if you have some crazy formatting going on, maybe I'm gonna, the background color on this is gonna be that crazy green, and then my text color, maybe I'm gonna do purple. It's gonna pick that up in the accessibility checker and say that that is not good design. Maybe I should even make that a different, let's do yellow, because there's no way that that's good reading. So if you go into your accessibility checker and find that text that's highlighted, you can actually just change the color right here. So I could come in and say, you know what, let's actually make that dark blue and apply that right there, and it will fix those that contrast for you. If you're not familiar with getting sufficient contrast, one of my favorite resources is WebAIM, and you can see as I just start typing that up, I go to this URL a lot because it's finding WebAIM and the color contrast checker. So you can put in the hex code for your foreground and your background and make sure you have sufficient contrast. I bring that up because it will, meaning the accessibility checker will look for sufficient contrast on the text. But if I have, white text on a blue background here on the image, it's not going to find that on an image. So as you're creating your buttons, banners, I would pull those hex codes and put them into this WebAIM contrast checker and just make sure that you have sufficient contrast there as well.
Hey, Deonne.
Yes.
So we had a good comment here from Lisa. I wanted to get your feedback. She says, does duplicating an assignment possibly retain the rubric?
I was thinking about that, Lisa. I feel like it will, but I haven't been in the weeds deep enough lately to double check that. But I feel like it would.
Somebody go try it and let us know here in the comments.
I would love that. Thanks, Mark.
Welcome again, everybody. We've got people from all over Ireland, all over the States, and many other places. So thanks again for coming, talking with Deonne today about the best practices for Canvas courses. Keep the questions coming.
Love it. I really do appreciate the question. So it was my hope that this be more interactive. Mark, thanks for fielding the comments for me. So my presentation today was based on good, better, and best. So we've touched base on my top 5 tips for good course design. Let's talk about better. What are some of the better things that you can do? And hopefully people are familiar with the course evaluation checklist. If you're not, again, I'll share out this slide deck at the end of the webinar here today, and you'll have access to those direct links. But let's leave that one. I've got the document pulled up here on my screen, and kind of a fun little story. I remember when I talked to the Director of Learning Services probably about 2.5 years ago, and I said, what would be super helpful is if there was a checklist so that people knew these are the things that are going to help me create a quality course. And she said, I agree. Why don't you spearhead that and collaborate with some other people on the learning services team? At the time, I was a consultant dedicated to a school district, And I was able to connect with our instructional designer, one of our instructional designers, and also somebody that was in the training department. And those three minds helped create the first iteration of the Canvas course evaluation checklist. We got some feedback. Oh, I just saw from Lisa that she said duplicate works. Yay! Thanks for testing that out, Lisa. So Lily and Aaron and myself created the first course evaluation checklist, and it went through an iteration last December. So if you haven't been in the community for a little while, you might want to update and look at that version 2.0. It's just got some additional items as well as we kind of fleshed some things out. One of the things that the second iteration has is our top 10 foundational items. So you can see that those are highlighted in blue. So if you've implemented those good practices, the next step that I would take would be to look at these 10 foundational items, such as does your homepage have a visual representation of the course, a brief course description, clear instructions for the students, quick and easy navigation to the current content. Mark, it feels like you're going to hop in with a question.
I am. I'm just like that looming guy that you're kind of like, gosh, get off my screen. Sorry. I'm here. I want to hear from anybody that's out there in the community right now if you have used this course evaluation checklist. Some of you, I'm guessing right now, your minds are going, like, how come I didn't know about this? Let us know. Also, while we're waiting for your answers, I want Deonne, if you will message me a link to, oh, look at that. I just said it, and all of a sudden it came to me, as well as the presentation. I'll be sharing all these links, everybody. Another question that came in, Deonne, Hildy, our friend from Virginia, she's never used rubrics at the root level yet. She's wondering, what are the pros and cons? Is there more data? What is it that they get by doing that?
To me, the biggest pro for having rubrics at the root level or the sub-account level is that ability to have that consistency across your institution. Also, then people don't have to create a rubric from scratch. It gives you the chance to share that out and incorporating those best practices. And I don't want to dive too deep into using outcomes, but you can attach outcomes to rubrics as well. And then there's some great reporting information. Maybe towards the end, or maybe, I know some of my teammates are here, maybe it would make sense to pull up some Canvas guides that have some research and resources based around that.
Awesome. We do, Deonne. Looks like we have a decent number of people who have used it, some who haven't. We're going to drop a link in there so that you can and should use it. Really happy to hear. I know I saw somebody, it was Hildy talk about how they use it and they made some revisions to customize for their group, which is exactly what we want to see. Absolutely on the checklist, also the mobile supplement. So really, really cool stuff. Again, we're sharing links to all of this shortly. Deonne, keep it going and keep those links coming.
And I did see a comment from Graydon that said that they're going to be using that, and that checklist is a huge time saver. The way that it's shared out in the community is so that you can access the checklist, and it allows you to create a copy by clicking on this use template. That'll give you a copy of the course evaluation checklist so that you can use it as is, or if you want to customize it for your own institution, then you have the original file and can make those changes. So going back to that course evaluation checklist, after you've looked at all the foundational items, then you can see that it's mapped out that we've got some 1-star items, which are considered essential. And then we've got some 2-star items, which will lead you into some best practice. All the 2-star items are listed there. The 3rd-star items are what we would consider exemplary, so taking your course up to the next level. And I've also included a link to the mobile app design checklist, which is kind of a twin, maybe that it pairs, I guess, nicely with that course evaluation checklist because it's got some mobile app design considerations. Like it talks about requirements and prerequisites and how to make those better. I'm just going to pull up the original on this as well because One difference with the mobile app design checklist is we have some examples, and I think that this might be overlooked. So for instance, if we click on that module requirements and follow that link, it shows you what that's going to look like with an attached PNG file. So for instance, that marked is done is going to show up here in that top right-hand corner. Or students, the green check mark is a little more pronounced, I think, in the mobile version of Canvas than it is just with the desktop. Any other questions coming in, Mark?
Sorry, I wish I could tell you I was busy playing solitaire or something, but I was so intrigued in the world of what's going on here. Lots of comments. Jessica, thank you. This checklist will be a great guide to develop PD for our district, catered to the varying levels of implementation. We've got a comment here from Twitter that she's not used the checklist, but she's on it. Lots and lots of comments about the checklist. So make sure you check it out and use it if you haven't used it yet. And Deonne just keeps dropping incredible things on it. She just sent another link that I'm going to be sharing with all of you shortly. Jump in, use them, give us feedback, keep the questions coming.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So we've talked about good, we've talked about better. Let's talk about best. So if you've been able to grab everything from the mobile app design considerations and the course evaluation checklist, what's left? If we look at our little person climbing the summit here, what are some things that we can incorporate in terms of design, content, accessibilities, UDL, engagement, humanizing that learning experience? So this is like taking your courses, in my opinion, to the highest level possible. And I know that that's not always available because we all have a certain restriction of time or resources, financial type things. But if I'm putting a course out there that's going to be seen by a lot of people, maybe it's a district level course, or you're wanting to teach your faculty members about best practices, I would have one course that I focus on that looks at these 6 different elements. So when I'm talking about design, I'm talking about like the graphic components. So your banners, your buttons, your icons, like you've got a rock solid template, and that's where I typically start when I'm creating courses. The next thing, of course, is going to be your content, making sure that you're working with a SME, or maybe you're the subject matter expert yourself, and you've got really great content that's in there. The next thing, I kind of like almost put on a different hat, and then I look at it in terms of accessibility and make sure that I don't have any accessibility challenges, not only using the accessibility checker, but also on this course evaluation checklist, you can see our last little structure here is about course accessibility. So making sure that my color enhances the appeal and effectiveness of the course. When I'm teaching a course on accessibility, I often have people look up bad website design, and you can see some really crazy stuff. That's not what we want our Canvas courses to look like. So images, being more familiar with alt text, and again, WebAIM is a great resource for that. Utilizing styles, making sure that hyperlinks are using natural language hyperlinks. And again, in the checklist, you've got a link to some WebAIM that will help educate people on how to implement best practices in terms of links and hyperlinks. Making sure that your audio is accessible and that tables are used appropriately and accessible as well.
Deonne, really quick, Deonne's going to go in for me and open up those sharing settings. We do have some people that are already diving in, trying to just consume this presentation. And don't worry, it's not because we don't like you. Lisa, Penny, Debbie, you know that we like you. We love having you here. We just have to update the permissioning so that you can actually open it. So if by chance it doesn't come right now, we'll look at it again.
All right, perfect. And you know what? Like Google just changed the way this works. I thought I had set it to anybody. There we go.
And Deonne, can you grab a link for me as well to the checklist? We're getting lots of questions about that one as well.
Yep. To the checklist, I already thought I put in there, but let me just do that one
again, just to make sure.
Yep.
There was a question. I'm scrolling back here. The amount of questions and comments we're getting in is pretty crazy. So thank you for sticking with us. Ava is asking us, do many people use the modules page as their homepage? My reasoning to use it is that an introductory homepage is only really useful to the students for the first few weeks. After that, they want to be able to navigate to the content via modules in a minimum of clicks. What are your thoughts, Deonne?
And you know, when we went through that rapid implementation about 2 months ago, that was one of our best practices that we recommended because it is such an easy way for students to just jump into the content. I think it also depends upon the age of your students, because if you have second or third grade students, I don't think that the module view is going to be quite as accessible or appealing for that age group. But I have seen a lot of faculty members more at a higher ed institution that they have that homepage that has that nice appealing process, or like welcoming homepage for the first couple of weeks, and then transition to modules being their homepage. So I think that's totally acceptable.
Cool. I am dropping in the comments right now the link to the course evaluation checklist, as well as something in community for mobile app design. So look for those. Go ahead.
So I was talking about like putting on different hats. So first I look at my course in terms of the design elements. Then I look at my course in terms of content, then accessibility. And my last three kind of all correlate with one another. Universal design for learning. You can see that some of those like are in the checklist itself. So when you see that UDL 7.3 or 1.3, those are all referencing UDL. And if you go to this website, you can learn more about UDL. And I'll drop that mark to you, and then you can put it in the chat for us. FAST is a really great resource for UDL, if that's a new term for you. The idea is to remove barriers for students for their learning, and to present content in multiple ways so that they maybe can watch a video, or maybe they're going to read articles, or they're going to look at an infographic. So when I'm looking at my content, I also want to make sure that there's different ways that I'm putting that content out there, so that if I have more of an audio learner or a tactile learner, that there's that opportunity for them to get that content in a variety of ways. Also consider using UDL on how are they going to demonstrate your students deeper understanding of that content. So I don't think this can be done necessarily with every assignment, but it's really nice if at the end of a unit that you give students choice, right? Maybe they're going to make a poster and take a picture and upload that, or maybe they're going to write a paper, or maybe they're going to do a presentation and record themselves. But giving students that flexibility on, here's what you were supposed to learn, now show me that you've learned it. Also, as a teacher, like I love giving students that flexibility and giving them that opportunity to be creative, because what you get is often so much better than a contrived, here's your slide deck or your PowerPoint presentation that I want you to fill out. Another thing that I consider when I'm putting together really like best practices for Canvas course design is the engagement. So I want to make sure that students have an opportunity to engage with one another, to engage with me as the teacher of the course, and also to engage with that content in a variety of ways. And I want to apply a humanizing element to that learning. So how are you going to do some of those things? I have a slide that has just kind of a quick little summary of those. So I like to transition from your content being so task related to giving your students experiences with that content. I talked at the beginning of the presentation today about video, that can establish your instructor presence, and it can provide a great opportunity for you to get to know your students and your students to know one another. Some little tips to really make that happen is to broadcast in an authentic way. So you can do that from your backyard, from your kitchen. Like let your students see that you're human and that you really do care about them. The other one that I'm going to highly recommend is the one and done method, meaning that you do one presentation and you record it and then it's done. I think when we get into that perfectionist mentality that we need to have a green screen behind us and we need to edit the video and we need to crop and do all those type of things, it just makes it almost unobtainable. And then students or your fellow faculty members or teachers feel like they can't do that unless they have a green screen and all that editing and time to do the editing. So just remember that the best presentation is one that's done, the best course is one that's done, and kind of try to remember that it's progress over perfection. As I say that, I'm like, I'm realizing that I have a little typo here in my slide deck. I meant to say that videos are great to use in SpeedGrader. Because again, it's that way of giving feedback to your students that it's personalized. It's from you directly to them. So highly recommend using videos. Another strategy is to welcome your students, excuse me, by leveraging a week zero. So that can include things like Canvas announcements, putting videos in those Canvas announcements. We talked about low stakes opportunities for students to interact with the instructor, course, content, each other, etc., just so that it's not quite as intimidating. And that way, by the end of the course, the end of the semester, whatever your time frame is, they're more comfortable with Canvas as a platform, and they can really focus on learning and sharing what they've learned with you versus how does Canvas even function. There's also some really great LTI tools to help you create engaging and interactive assignments, and I'd encourage you to look for those either that have been set up by your institution, or you can set those up at the course level. Should have left. Again, I'll make sure that you have a link to the slide deck. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do, the presentation. So I've got some links to different resources. There's a great book on humanizing online teaching and learning by Whitney Kilgore. And I wasn't sure if it was okay to put a link from Amazon into the slide deck. Maybe that's what I'll do for that one.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Maybe I can get a little kickback from Whitney at her next presentation or something.
Whitney,
just kidding.
Whitney, hook Deonne up. Hook
That's
her.
right.
Questions. I know that we've got some more questions and comments coming in. We'll be here for a couple more minutes. Lots of resources have been shared. Lots of great stuff. Deonne, I know that there's still somebody that's saying that the link is still broken or missing. So we'll look at that, grab the link, and know that in the next few minutes it will all be fixed. Let's see. Victoria, wow, this is powerful. I'm excited to go back to my courses and make them better. Well, you're not going to find someone better at doing that than Deonne, so we're glad that you could join us. And if there are any questions, remember, keep them coming. We did, as those questions are piling in, I wanted to let you know, I dropped a blog post in there from Melissa Lobel, our Chief Customer Experience Officer, that just launched probably minutes ago, just this morning, that talks about a program that we just kicked off to highlight all of the cool stuff that all of you have done with Canvas. We're giving away some pretty big prizes, $500 Amazon gift cards and a whole bunch of $50 Amazon gift cards. Go look at that blog post, create this little video. There's a tool. We're working with a partner called Story Media to make it super easy. We want to hear your stories. And we're going to highlight some of those stories tomorrow and highlight a few people who are just doing really, really cool things. Remember, we are back every day, Monday through Friday, except for yesterday because we weren't here, at 10:30 a.m. Mountain. Any other questions? Deonne, wrap us up.
Well, I have to say, it's been fun to see some names of familiar friends that are joining me today. Geraldine, I just saw your synchronous and asynchronous communication. Love that. And I double check because I think the permissions are set now so that anybody with the link can view. So double check that you've got that link to the slide deck that was shared out today. But I really appreciate everybody joining, and especially during this pandemic. Like, it's just nice to have you take out 30, 45 minutes of your time and learn more about best practices with me.
Love it. We had a comment here from Angelina. I don't know how many of you all have seen. There is a new feature that came out that we're calling Canvas Confetti, that the community is going bonkers over. Just go search Canvas Confetti on Twitter and you'll be amazed. That's something, Angelina, that if your admin hasn't turned on, you have to enable it. but students, we're getting tons of comments from students about how powerful it is for them to get confetti after they submit their assignments. It's silly, but it's making a huge impact on students. So any other thoughts from you, Deonne, on what are some great ideas for keeping students motivated on Canvas?
Well, at least they're using Canvas. Sad to say, my own elementary children are using Google Classroom, and it makes me want to cry. I think just increasing those level of engagements. Anytime that you can add that personal touch by using videos, leveraging those LTIs so that they've got something other than just, here's my content written out on a Canvas page, and then I'm taking a Canvas quiz. Using new quizzes. If your institution has Studio, looking at leveraging Studio and utilizing the comments or the quizzing functionality, looking at insights that's available. Awesome. Maybe that's a good opportunity for round 2 of from our instructional design team to talk about motivating students and creating engaging content.
You know it's coming, Deonne. I mean, and we want your team on here too, but anytime somebody does this well and we get this many comments, it's just a given. They want you back. Everybody in this thing is thinking, Dr. Deonne, what do we have to do to get more time with you? Sally, great comment. We're using Canvas Confetti and Digital Bingo so they can earn points for new digital prizes while we're out. Love it. How do we use those templates you shared at the start? Can we apply them into our Canvas courses, Deonne?
You know what? I heard you just ask me a question, but I was looking at the comments.
Okay, everybody, this is a normal occurrence for me. I talk and people don't listen. Just kidding. The question, I can't keep up with these comments. There's too many of them. It was basically, how do people start using those templates that you shared earlier? Can they bring them into their own Canvas courses?
So your own institution most likely has a template. The suite that I shared with you was for you to be able to view and get some ideas, but those additionally can be purchased from our instructional design department, or you can leverage the templates that are available in Canvas Commons. You'll see a few of those up there as well.
Awesome. There is a place, I will find the link and drop it in right now. We had some questions about these live streams. It is every day at 10:30. TBD on how far into the summer we're going to go. I know many of you are like us and you may want a little bit of a break after what we've been going through during the pandemic, but we'll keep them going as long as you need them and want them, and as long as they're valuable. If there are questions about these sessions, or you want, we'd love to see a session about XYZ, send them to me directly. This is probably a bad idea with as many people as are on here, but my email address is, I feel like I should pull a joke and give them Deonne's email address right now. I won't. It's mark.booth, mark.boothe @instructure.com. Send me a quick note on other content you'd love to see us cover. This started because of people like you. The Canvas community came together about 2 months ago and said, we've got to start doing something to help the community. And so we figured out over a weekend how to pull off the streaming, and we're now up to over 50 streams that have been provided over the past 2 months to our awesome Canvas community. So thanks for being so cool. I am grabbing a link right now to where you can see all of the videos. And you'll be able to see stuff that is upcoming as soon as I get that information over to the team. So take a look at the link that I'm dropping in right now. Leanne, battling Google Classroom is a real thing. That's funny. Deonne feels your pain on a daily basis. Anything else you're seeing here, Deonne? I mean, there are a ton of comments. Thanks again to everybody for coming.
Maybe I'll just wrap it up and share that link at one more time so that actually maybe you can do that, Mark. I don't think I can leave a comment in there.
I can grab it. Which one am I grabbing? Is it the
just to the slide deck?
Yep. Okay, why don't you give us the 30-second wrap up of what we talked about as I'm grabbing that.
The 30-second wrap up is progress over perfection. And the best course is a done course. At some point, you just have to put a bow on it and say, you know what, I'll do better next time. This is what I've got today. When we know better, we do better. Otherwise, we'll never put content out, right? And our 80% is going to be a lot better than other people's even 20%. So you guys are rocking it. I'm so honored to be here today and to be able to share with other teachers and educators. Oh, Jarlin, thanks. Deonne is phenomenal. Jarlin and I work together at the school district in Florida. So good to see you, Jarlin. And I just appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you.
Awesome. Everybody, we're back again tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m., about 23 hours and 45 minutes from this very minute. We'll see you then. Check out that blog post that I added in there. Check out the presentation and scroll up because you'll see a whole bunch of other links that Deonne shared with you today. We want to hear your story. We want to hear the cool things that you as teachers and admins and students and parents are doing with Canvas. Check out that blog post I shared, and we want to see you create a video. We want to highlight you. That may end up being showcased in our CanvasCon online that's happening in October. If you guys didn't know about that, we have, with the pandemic, decided to go totally virtual for our big conference this year, which is good news for everyone everywhere. Ireland, Sweden, I've seen you from all over today. You should come. It's in October, mid-October, and hopefully we'll be able to highlight some of these key stories that you're going to record. So we will see you tomorrow at 10:30. Deonne, thank you again so much for all of the knowledge you shared with us today, and we will see you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.